if I do a search for ROSE, it brings up roses. But if my wife does a search for ROSE, it brings up rosé for her, because we have that generative understanding in the back of search. True story. 2020, Lambda was our large language model that was released way back at 2020 at I/O. Our CEO, Sundar, was having a conversation with the paper plane about what it's like to fly. And that was the very first look at generative AI with a language interface. 2022, we produced something called AlphaFold, which is the idea of let's bring in all the medical journals in the world and open source those to doctors anywhere in the world. 2023, we brought in our very first open sourced and available BARD model. And then this year, we've changed to Gemini. So I guess that's kind of how we got to where we are today. So jumping forward, let's have a look at, as Tim was saying, our AI principles. So we have 7 AI principles that we must hit every time we release something into the AI sphere. Number 2 is super, super important. It should never create or reinforce unfair bias. Should always be tested for safety. And number 4 is, as Tim said, there is no Skynet on our watch. Everything is accountable to people. We have teams with their hands on the handbrake. If something looks like it's going the wrong direction, we pull it back, we roll the model way back, retest it, retrain it, and then send it out as well. So thinking about this moving into education, number 1, is it appropriate for education? And number 2, what are the benefits? Because I love shiny new things, but if there's actually no reason to use them, why are we using them? They're just another thing we're using. So number 3, is it helping all levels? And number 4, is the educator looped into the experience? So those top 4 are really, really important principles we're bringing in to education. So the idea is about making AI helpful for everyone. So the helpfulness part is huge. And around education, we're looking at how we can help educators with our models. We've had a little look at this timeline before. We started with AI way back in Sheets in 2015. When you highlight some data, it suggests what chart you're going to put in. That was really early AI. So it's been around for a long time. As Tim said, been around for a while. It is a buzzword, but we've had it for quite some time. How we can help support the teacher is super important to us. Preparation and administration are those 2 big, the white bubbles there are showing basically how much time we can hope to save by using generative tools. So a couple of tools that are already available for you. If you use Google Classroom, you will have seen practice sets. Practice sets is a way of giving students some work, giving them some feedback when they need it, so pre-providing some hints for them. And also, as you can see on the screen there, providing educators with feedback about what's going on for their kids. So putting AI in the background to help to give you information is a big part of practice sets. If you haven't seen practice sets, jump into it and have a look. If you can't see practice sets, it may mean you haven't upgraded to Workspace Plus, which is funded by the ministry. If you haven't done that yet, or if you don't know you have a chat to the PB team about getting that. Read Along is an AI-powered reading tutor. You have Dia, who sits there. You can see in the GIF on the right-hand side. Yes, I said GIF, not GIF, because that's how you say it. You can see Dia sitting there. And what happens is a student reads to Dia. Dia listens and picks up any words they get wrong. If a student stumbles over a word or pauses, Dia will read the word to them. As an educator, you get feedback on speed of reading, how many words they've read, how long they've read for, what lexile level they're sitting at, and all that sits inside your domain. We just announced on Friday of last week that Read Along is now a core Google for Education service, so it's covered by all the other terms of service. If you haven't seen Read Along, do have a look. It is an Android app. It is also available on the web for any web-based device, and as an educator, you can manage that. Okay, so Read Along and practice sets are 2 really great examples of how we're already using AI. Today, we're going to look at 2 things. One is free Gemini, and one is Gemini and Workspace. Gemini and Workspace covers all the stuff you can see here. That is an additional paid license. The free Gemini is actually free. Okay. Anna was asking about Read Along. So Read Along does multiple languages. Unfortunately, none of our Pacific languages just yet, but there is some more stuff coming with that very, very soon. So No, we haven't got a really good Te Reo Māori language set yet, and we want to make sure that Te Reo Māori is perfect before we release it, because we don't want to pronouncing things badly. So a lot of work being done in the background around Te Reo and a lot of our Pacifica languages. So Gemini and Workspace, as I said, is that paid additional service you can get, and we'll have a look at the free stuff available in Gemini as well. So Gemini on the left there at gemini.google.com, you can go there and log in and start using Gemini for free as of now. If you're using your education account, your admin does need to turn Gemini on. Gemini is available for educators. It's available for 18 plus only, but your admin does need to turn it on for you. In the middle bit, we've got workspace tools. So we have practice sets and read along I talked about, but also those add-ons to Gmail, for instance. So if I'm away for a day, Gemini can read my mail for me and give me a quick 10 bullet point summary of an email chain I may have missed out. On the right-hand side, we have a really great tool called Vertex, which allows you to build your own AI chatbots. So that is available in Google Cloud. So let's have a look at Gemini. We are looking at Gemini as an assistant for educators. So not trying to take away the role of an educator, but try and give you a teacher assistant or a learning assistant for every kid in your class. We realize that there is a lot of power in doing this, being able to create a whole lot of stuff, being able to differentiate stuff for students as well. So saving time, making learning personal, inspiring creativity, and learning confidently. And down the bottom, super important, keeping your data private and secure. So Gemini very soon will have additional data protections, which will mean it'll actually bring it inside of your domain. At the moment, the free version sits outside of your domain, but as you can see there, it has been announced that Gemini will be brought inside of your domain very, very soon. It will give you all of these things for free at gemini.google.com. Gemini for Workspace is that additional paid service, so helping you to write, helping you to visualize, helping you to organize, and helping you to connect. So we've got those two different products we're looking at here. On the left-hand side, the free one, on the right-hand side, an additional paid one. Now, the additional paid one, you can buy one license for 1 month to test it out if you want. You don't have to sign up for a year for 300 people. You can get one license for 1 or 2 people in your school, have a test yourselves, and then figure out if it's for you or not. Now, when we talk about using Gemini or any generative AI, realistically, the prompt is the super important part. Now, on the right-hand side are some tips. Use natural language, be clear and concise, provide context, and use relevant keywords. So don't say at the top left there, write a lesson plan. Go for write a lesson plan on cellular structures for 6th grade biology, or level 5 of the New Zealand curriculum, and it will give you back stuff specific around the New Zealand curriculum. Top right, provide 12 thoughtful questions to ask an educator on their teaching strategy next year. So giving it actually a persona, which you can see on the left-hand side. So for instance, define a persona, which let me just see if I've got let me just turn my laser pointer on. There we go. Over the side, define a persona. Answer like you're an IT admin, or answer as a teacher mentor to a beginning teacher, or answer as a year 12 student. So give it a persona. Specify a format. So create a step-by-step list, or a bullet-pointed list, or 3 paragraphs. Be really specific what you want. And then you can also provide examples. So if you have something on a link or a public website, you can link to it and say, give me this as an example. And we'll have a little look at some examples of that really, really shortly. But being specific with your prompt is where you can help out with this. Now, because Gemini is available for 18 plus only, it means that teachers use it. A great thing to do with your students is get them to write a prompt, bring it to you, put it in, see what it does. Go back and refine their prompt, or simply have a doc going with a whole pile of prompts that the students can drop in. You can drop it into Gemini and see what it does. Have a discussion about how they could make it better. So lots of ways you can use it in the classroom while still having the teacher being the driver of it. Some examples of prompts. So these are a whole lot of prompts I have used. So a really simple prompt for Gemini: tell me how people can use Gemini AI in education. It's quite an open prompt. I might refine that by saying in 10 bullet points, or for a maths teacher, or for a reading teacher. So be specific. The second one there, create an image of a beach with wild horses running on it. It is sunset. Create this in a watercolor style. Free Gemini will create images for you. Now that one there is a really nice example of how I've asked a beach with wild horses on it, but I want it at sunset and I want it in a watercolor style. So the more I give the prompt, the better stuff I get back. The third one down is a really nice example of creating something for the classroom. So write a story for a child aged 6 years old. So there is a really specific direction about a family holiday in Queenstown, New Zealand. Again, nice and specific. Include 5 things they did and include images of those activities. So by being really specific, I'm narrowing down exactly what I'm going to get out of there rather than just write a story about Queenstown. Then I've done an itinerary for a family holiday in Queenstown, include 5 things they could do and include image of those and include the web addresses of the attractions listed. So again, being really specific and asking for the web address of the places they go to. Now in Gemini, when I'll jump over to in a minute and show you this in real time, when an image is used, that image will be referenced. When something that's freely available on the web is used, that will be referenced also. So for the family holiday in Queenstown, if they use some information from the Queenstown gondola, they would reference that link at the bottom of what you get back. And I'll show you that in a moment. Now, thinking about some really education-focused pieces we can do. So this one here is quite a nice one. So create a 3-level guide from that YouTube clip. Now, Gemini will not watch the clip. It will actually read the transcript in the background and then create you a 3-level guide based on that resource. The next example down, summarize that big report. And I could ask it to summarize it in 10 bullet points or to give me just the specific summary of it. So I will read reports and summarize them. Gemini has available to everything on the web via Google search. It also has available YouTube, for Google Photos that are public, and current news that's available on the web as well. So last year I was down in Christchurch. I posed a question to Gemini. I said, tell me about the recent cricket tour of New Zealand. Gemini came back and said, there are actually 2 cricket tours going on in New Zealand right now. There is this one and this one. Which one would you like to know about? So Gemini has available Google search, which means it is up to the minute, the information you get back. This next prompt down here is quite a nice one for an example of creating resources for your staff. Write a beginner's guide to hyperdocs. You are an expert, skilled at providing the best information for people new to this activity. Provide a comprehensive overview of what is needed to get started, but be concise. So again, I've given Gemini a persona. You are an expert. You're good at providing information for people new to it. I want to know what's needed to get started, and I want you to be concise. So we can create a really nice resource. We can create PD resources. We can create help sheets. We can also create tables of data. So create a table of 20 capital cities around the world and their difference in time from New Zealand. So I've asked for a table to be created. So these are a whole lot of examples of prompts, and I'll come back and show you those in action in a little bit. Now, we have a prompt writing quick guide that we can share out. You'll get this, this recording as well, so you can go back over this. But also, if you have a look at prompt writing, there is a whole lot of information around there. And I've talked a little bit about that in those previous slides. Create a short story for children aged 7 to 8 about a trip to the zoo. Now, you can also ask Gemini to create different versions of the story as well. A really nice example of that, create a short story for children aged 7 to 8. It creates a story. Then you simply go back to Gemini and say, rewrite this for a 10-year-old, rewrite this for a 12-year-old, rewrite this for a 6-year-old. And it will re-level all the writing in that. So if you had a group of learners who were really excited about tigers, we could say, write a story about a tiger in the jungle for someone 6 years old. Then rewrite it for an 8-year-old, and it will differentiate that information for you straight away. So when you're thinking about creating new resources, this is where the power sits with Gemini, I think. That last one there, create a professional development plan for educators in New Zealand who use Google Workspace and Chromebooks, provide a timeline and some suggested activities. So again, being really specific, educators in New Zealand who use Workspace and Chromebooks, we want a timeline and we want suggested activities. So promptingguide.ai is a really nice resource to get this information around. And working with your team or working with your students to understand how to write a prompt is a really great example of how to understand how to use Gen AI well. So I talked about these components of a high quality prompt. Give it a persona, give it a task or some steps, give it a format. There might be some constraints to this. And if you want to, give it some examples. So when we think about putting together a high quality prompt, this is a great way to organize it. Here's one of those high quality prompts we've looked at earlier as well. Expert learning designer, engaging name ideas, bulleted list, year 8 class. Okay, let's jump forward a bit more. So thinking about the free Gemini, on the right-hand side, it's really hard to read because I made it quite small. That was my question. How can people use Gemini in education? And Gemini's come back with some information for me. I'll show you that in real time in a minute. Those are my example prompts. We can think about how we create a 6-lesson plan on photosynthesis, for instance. So a series of lessons. So all these are ways you might be able to use Gemini in your school or in your classroom. So on the left-hand side, create a quiz on photosynthesis. And then I've come back and said, can you give me the answer key for that? So it's created that quiz for me straight away. Now, Gemini is also what we call multimodal. Now, you see I've dropped in a picture and said, can you tell me about the car in this picture? Gemini has had a look at the picture and come back and said those things there. Now, down the bottom of our prompt, you can see I can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So if there is something really wrong, you can give it a thumbs down and give some feedback. These little sliders here allow you to change it. So make it longer, make it shorter, make it more professional, make it more fun. We can go over to this little share button here and we can share it out to Docs or to Gmail or to Sheets, depending on what it is. And then the Google search button will allow me to do a search to check that information so I can see where it comes from as well. So that's what the Gemini interface looks like. This little bit here is where I click that, I can upload my image. I can also click the microphone and just speak my prompt if I want to. Then hit the arrow to send the prompt off and create the resource. So that's what the Gemini interface looks like. A couple of maths problems. This again was put up as a picture, or it was actually a quick screenshot of a PDF. And it's tell me how I can actually work through this. So you can see it has what each of the letters stand for, 2 questions, and it's looked at those as individual questions. Then over here is how I've done it. I've put that screenshot straight into the prompt there and tell me how to simplify it. Now, if you want to make a really simple help sheet, there you go, you've got it. So it's helping you to create resources. So as I said before, there is also a paid add-on for Workspace, and you can talk to your PB team about that. So built into Docs, it will help you write. So it's actually embedded inside of Docs, not going out to free Gemini, but staying inside of Docs. It will give you that help me write inside of there. Inside of Slides, you can also get Gemini to create you images inside of Slides. So what it will do here is it will create me some images. So it's created an image and dropped it straight into Slides. Now, all these images that are created right now. They are not existing images, so there is no copyright on them. So if you made a short story for your students, or your students gave you a short story, you can jump into here and make some images that fit perfectly with that story. So if your student writes you a story about a tiger eating spinach in the rain, I don't know how the hell you'd find a picture of that with a Google search. It will probably take you hours. Get Gemini to create that image for you, drop it into the student's work. Inside of Sheets, you also get what's called that sidebar down the side, create an agenda, or create me a formula to do this. So it is conversational on the right. It will create you that stuff inside of slides. So this is the additional add-on for Workspace. There is a whole lot of AI training and help on our website. So if you just do a quick search for generative AI training, Google for Education, you'll come up with this page. Now, this page will give you a whole lot of tips that you can use. Okay, so that's having a bit of a look at the two types of generative AI, the free version versus the paid version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch tabs and jump over into my Gemini. Let's share this tab here. Okay, so here's what Gemini looks like at gemini.google.com. You can see up the top, it's asking me if I want to try Gemini Advanced. There is an advanced version of this, but what you're seeing here is the free version. So my prompt here was create me an image of a dragon flying over a city at night. Here are the images that Gemini has created for me. Now, if I decide to myself, actually, I wouldn't mind changing that a little bit. If I go down here and I go recreate as in the style of DALL-E, for instance, let's see what comes back. Gotta love demoing things live, so we'll see what happens here. So wait for it to have a little think about those images. Now, this is the free version of Gemini. It's available for you right now. There's no credits. There's no numbers of things you can create. So here we go. Here is a DALL-E style dragon, apparently. Now, if I want to do a new prompt, I can go over to the plus and I can start what's called a new chat. So this is sitting on the home page here. Here is my image upload down the bottom, and there is my little microphone prompt as well. Some ideas across here of what you want as well. So if I say create a story, I should spell correctly, about visiting Christchurch for a 7-year-old. I've spelled Christchurch wrong. Let's see if it gets it right. There we go. So it's writing me a story about Christchurch. So we're thinking, oh, look, no trip to Christchurch would be complete without visiting the Margaret Mayhew Playground. So I might go, tell me about the Margaret Mayhew Playground. So that's a little something that's popped up there. I've spelled it wrong again. So that's given me some information about the playground. Can you show me that picture of it? So Gemini is what we call conversational. It remembers what you're talking about. It comes back and gives you some information. So there is a picture of the Margaret Mayhew Playground. You'll see it has a link because that is actually an existing image out there on the Christchurch City Council website. So we reference things when we find them. I can do my modifications down here. I can share them, or I can just simply go for it and use that. You'll also notice we have a draft button there. So those drafts, if I go back to my writing up here, I can look at different drafts of something. So here is draft 1, here is draft 2, and I can create new ones if I want. Same thing with images, same thing with writing. It will redo it for me. So if I'm going back here, actually, I might go, let's see if it'll remember that first thing I put in. Recreate this story for a 15-year-old. Let's see if I remember that story from the beginning there. There we go. So it's now getting that bit of writing and recreating it for a 15-year-old. So a really nice way to instantly differentiate the information you're doing through there. Okay. So if I have a look at my saved chats over here, this one was a picture I took at a conference with my phone. So if you're using gemini.google.com on your phone, you can open your camera. I took a photo of that and simply say, can you tell me about that thing? And it's showing me, it's telling me what that thing is. So it's likely a type of rubber fig. Who knew? It's a thing. Now, I've got a few different things through here. This one, I've asked me 10 different questions with answers from that YouTube clip. So this was a YouTube clip based on photosynthesis. It has given me 10 questions and answers about those things there. And it's shown me where what the YouTube clip is I used to watch it. It's the Amoeba sisters, who are amazing. Now, if I go down the bottom here and I click share, you can see I can export that straight out to docs from there. If I decide that I want to change that, I can go back through and I can edit this. You'll notice I can regenerate my draft up there, so I can actually get a hold of new questions if I want as well. Now, the other one I was showing you before is a really nice one where if I'm going to go, let's do a new chat again. If I go, actually, let me just use my microphone because then it might make my typing a bit better. Just allow this. Create me a lesson plan for level 5 of the New Zealand curriculum for dance. Give me it in a bullet pointed list with 3 lesson starters. All right, let's see what comes back from that. I've never tried this one before, so let's see how we go. All right, dance lesson plan, level 5 New Zealand curriculum. There are the learning objectives. Here are our lesson starters. Here are activities. Here is our differentiation. Here is our assessment. Now, the nice thing about that is I wish when I was an HOD, I had this available for writing relief when people ring up sick first thing in the morning. So I've just now created a nice little relief lesson to give out. Now, obviously, I'm not going to give that direct. I might go through and have a little look at it. Now, if I was doing it for a dance class, I would give it direct because I have zero clue about dance in the New Zealand curriculum. But if I had someone else that could look over it, I could probably do that. But you'll notice that it does actually reference the learning objectives from the New Zealand curriculum because it has read the New Zealand curriculum. So it will read things if you give it the link as well. So that is our little lesson plan. Let's see if I can you give me 3 YouTube clips to support this? See what it comes up with. So we can start to build some resources for ourselves. Here we go. Boy dance for kids and how to learn Bollywood dance as well. So then that's going to give me our 3 YouTube clips. So it is conversational. It remembers what I said. It allows me to create resources. It allows me to also create images as well. So I had an image I'd done earlier. So there are lots of ways you can use this to create images, to create resources, to differentiate work, to make work that's available for you. So those little bubbles I looked at earlier in the piece about how we can save time, a lot of this is around resource creation, lesson creation, and being able to share them as well. So that's a little look around the free Gemini that is available for you now. Emily, what does Gemini Advanced give? So Gemini Advanced gives you a slightly different model, which has some deeper understanding of some things. So for instance, I might ask it to give me a really in-depth explanation about a question. It may not be able to do it, but the Advanced may. So the Advanced just has a newer model. This one realistically will give you pretty much everything you need. I haven't found it stutter with many things yet. And I've been playing with it for quite some time now. So lots of things available for you that you can create. Now, the big piece I see is in differentiation, in resource creation, and also being able to create things and share them across your staff as well. So if you think about all the things you use to create resources, to find reading, to make quick quizzes, to make lesson starters, they're available through Gemini. Now, in the next little while, there will be an update to make sure everything stays inside your domain. At the moment, the information you put in here is available to go in and help to what we call train the model or to save the prompts. So a big thing before that data protection comes in, make sure you're not putting any student data in here. Okay, any names, any locations, any places. Now, I'm going to wrap up in a moment, but one thing I always finish off with when I'm talking to educators is a really nice one to start a conversation with your team. I'm going to do a voice prompt again so I don't have to type in and get lots and lots of spelling mistakes. Write a report for Steve, who really enjoys geography but is struggling. He is achieving well, but give him 3 goals to make sure he stays more focused in class. So a conversation around writing reports or creating feedback for students. Now, I've only put in the name Steve. I haven't identified this person at all. So if I'm having a look at this, here are my 3 goals for working better in geography. Remember, Steve, staying focused is a skill that gets stronger with practice. By setting these goals and using your natural curiosity, you'll be well on your way to mastering geography and continuing to enjoy the subject. Kind of sounds like a lot of reports I got when I was at school, to be honest. So it can help to give you some little nice pieces of work to drop into reports. It may be something to just give students feedback as well. There is the ability to give students direct feedback on their work, but that means waiting until the data protections come in. But this is a really nice way to create some feedback on Steve, that student that you're really struggling on writing a report for. Now, writing reports is that thing I will leave with your teams to take back. It's often a great thing to talk about in a staff situation. So I see we are at 40 minutes. So I said I would stop about now. If anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. Either drop them in the chat, which I'll have a quick look at, or if you want to be brave and come off mute and ask, you definitely can. So the 2 things we looked at was free Gemini at gemini.google.com. It is available for your personal Gmail or via your school email if it has been turned on by your admin. The other one we looked at is the workspace integration with Gemini. That is a paid additional service that your PB team can talk about. But as I said, you can buy 1 or 2 licenses for 1 or 2 months to give it a trial and then figure out if it's right for you or not. It may not be right for everyone. It may just be a flash thing. Or you may look at it and go, well, actually, this person could probably benefit from those tools. So that's a look at both of them. Hopefully it was useful. There is lots of stuff out there. There is a lot of things that educators can use Gemini for. And I think that differentiation that was always super hard when I was in the classroom, how do you differentiate work really quickly? How do you create resources? And how do you find that those bespoke resources to support students' real passions that they have in class? So I'll throw it back to Tim and the team if anybody doesn't have any questions. That can even make sense.
While people are thinking, you mentioned just before about how in the future Google are releasing a on-domain only version. Is there any protections at the moment that prevent users from inserting personal information?
No, so all large language models that you can put prompts into don't really have the ability to say that shouldn't be in here, because you're able to use it for whatever you want. So it's really that guidelines we give to educators about, think about this when you're using it. If you want to write some reports, put name X, we'll go through it. So if there is anything that is person identifiable, we always say whatever generative AI tool you're using, never put personally identifiable information in there. There will be an update very, very soon to let you know once those data protections are in for Gemini for educators.
Awesome. Jason has asked about the cost of the licenses. So for the advanced,
what we can do, maybe we'll get you to send that out, because there is a, if it's for 1 month, for years, there's one price. If it's for a year, it's another price. So what we'll do is we'll flip that out to everyone that came through here. Stephen asked, can you ask Gemini to tell you what sources it used? Yeah, so you can, and it will tell you. So you can hit the Google search button down the bottom, down there, and it will give you a search of those resources. So if I go back to here and I jump down the bottom, let's see if I can do this. So I hit that. Hopefully it's going to give me evaluating statements. So I didn't find the results there, but when I'm back in that conversation, when I get to the end of it, I can check that conversation. Because I've gone further, it's checking what's down there further. If you want to, you can just give it the TKI resource as well, and it'll actually read that if you find that it's not quite getting it right, or you can ask it where it's got it from. So good question, Stephen.
Any other questions anyone can be brave to ask? Everyone's a little bit shy, maybe. That's all good. If you have any other questions, you can always ask Steve directly, or you can contact PB Tech with our education team email. So that's education@pbtech.co.nz, or your account manager directly if you have their email. Any last minute questions, guys?
Give it that 9-second teacher wait time.
Yep. Going once. Going twice. No more questions. All good. Well, we can get in touch with all of you afterwards. Just a bit of follow-up and the record.